we're talking about TPS holders, but we really are talking about also U.S. citizens, kids, the new generation that is part of that is affected by this too. So we know that there's more than 300,000 people just in general that will be affected by TPS nationally. How about here in Massachusetts? I know that 6,000 TPS holders from El Salvador. How about from Haiti?
About 5,500.
Yeah. 5,500. So we're talking about basically 11,000, 12,000 people from that whole TPS from these affected countries here in Massachusetts, correct?
This morning's conversation is not an easy one. However I articulate it, it would be an underestimate. It would be an understatement to say that this is a particularly challenging and uncertain time for our friends, our neighbors, our colleagues, our family, the people that we love, and the people who are here who are immigrants. And that is especially true for people who, for those with temporary protective status. I want to express my deep gratitude to each member of our panel for sharing their stories, because it is one thing to share accurate information, obviously so true, but it is the stories of the individuals and their communities that brings it truly home to our hearts. I'd like to introduce Josh Zakim this morning, who is going to introduce our panelists. Josh is a community activist and a longtime board member of the Lenny Zakim Fund.
Much of my work, when we're not fixing the potholes and the street lights on the Boston City Council, has been around immigration and civil rights. I've been privileged to chair the Council's Committee on Civil Rights all 5 years that I've served on the Council, and we've worked quite a bit on this issue, on immigration, on TPS, on the Trust Act, and some of our partners from that, particularly Patricia from Centro Presente, who has been working so hard to get Trust Act, similar legislation, the Safe Communities Act passed statewide, something that we need to continue working on. But why I'm here today and why I think this breakfast is such an exciting opportunity is because the work of the Lenny Zakim Fund is not just about supporting organizations that are doing incredible work in our communities, although many of you are doing that, but it's really about bringing people together. And these Bridge Builder breakfasts, which we try to have twice a year, is to talk about people from different parts of our community, from the organizations that receive grants and support from the Lenny Zakim Fund, from community leaders, from our donors, from our volunteers, from our staff on these important issues, because there's a lot of noise out there, and particularly around an issue as complicated as TPS, but one that is so important to people in the city of Boston and Massachusetts. We need to have accurate information. We need to be working together and figuring out how we can do better on this front, because it seems very frustrating. It feels frustrating. It feels like there's something new every day. And that's why I'm excited to hear from our panel. We have an incredible moderator here to help us out. And I also want to thank the Himes and Barr Foundation for helping us put this together, and obviously Barr Foundation for hosting us in this facility this morning. And to introduce our moderator, who's Marcela Garcia. She is on the Boston Globe's editorial board, one of the people responsible for making, I think, important decisions and communicating the Globe's view as an institution, as an organization, on important issues like immigration, like some of our ballot questions, like news day to day to the broader community. And it's a privilege to have her here. Before joining the e-board at the Globe, Marcela was at Telemundo Boston, El Planeta, and she's here to moderate this panel and to lead our discussion. And I want to thank you all again for being here, for your work every day, and I'm going to turn it over to a much more qualified moderator this morning.
Thank you, Councilor. Thank you. Thank you so much. So let me quickly tell you what's going to happen. I'm going to give you a quick introduction on TPS, and then I'm going to turn it to each of the panelists who will give you roughly a 10-minute presentation, and then we're going to have a quick discussion and we'll take questions from you. So definitely, if you have specific questions, note them and know that there will be time for you to make them. So why are we here this morning? What is TPS? TPS stands for, as you probably all know or don't, TPS stands for Temporary Protected Status. And basically, it's a humanitarian program that was created or established by Congress in 1990. And the concept behind it is very simple, is that the United States should not deport or should suspend deportations to countries that have been destabilized by armed conflict, natural disasters like hurricanes, earthquakes, or, and I quote from the actual law, other extraordinary and temporary conditions, end quote. So foreign nationals with TPS protections are generally able to get work permits, driver's licenses, and so for that reason, most people who are in TPS work. They are part of our workforce. But this TPS designation, as its name says it, is temporary, so the government has to basically renew or has been renewing this TPS designation every 18 months, and people on TPS have to renew this TPS permit every 18 months. So the federal government does this every 18 months. So when Trump got elected to office, there were 13 countries, if I'm correct, and if I'm not, I'm pretty sure this is correct, but if at any point you know that I'm saying correct information, please feel free. So 13 countries with TPS designation when Trump got elected. Almost immediately, Trump started rolling back these protections and canceling TPS. So now there's 6 countries for which the Trump administration has canceled TPS, and that's El Salvador, Honduras, Haiti, Nicaragua, Sudan, and Nepal. So but by far, the largest group of TPS holders is from El Salvador. There's more than 200,000 people who have TPS in this country from El Salvador. So the good news is that this month, a federal judge ordered a temporary halt to the administration's actions. But this is a ruling that the Department of Justice is obviously appealing, so we just still don't know what's going to happen. TPS holders still face an uncertain future. And so what this ruling did is that it temporarily stopped TPS termination for 4 of these 6 countries: Sudan, Haiti, El Salvador, and Nicaragua. So TPS termination, what it means is that once this TPS permit expires for these people, they have to essentially leave or become eligible for deportation. So now we want to discuss this policy, its termination. You're going to hear from a TPS holder here in Massachusetts. We will talk about what the TPS picture looks like here locally, what the implications are for a state economy and workforce if these foreign nationals are forced to leave, and very importantly, what conditions they would face if they go back to their countries. The idea is to give you information and resources if you want to stay involved in this fight to keep this program in place. So with that, now I want to introduce you to our first panelist. And I should say that you have their bios in the program, so I would ask you to refer to them if you want to read more about each panelist, just so that we get this going. First, we have Dr. Gerald Gabot. Did I say it right? Good. From the Immigrant Family Service Institute. She has been working locally with the Haitian community for a long time, and so she's going to talk about TPS and its impact in the local Haitian community.
I was born and raised in Haiti, so I came here, and as soon as I came, because I started to work in Haiti with families, and as soon as I came, I found the opportunity for me to be involved in the community here in Boston, and that's what I've been doing for the past 20 years or plus. And I am so grateful to the Lenny Zakim Fund because they were the first one to open up their door and their heart to us to help us do the work that we started. And they've been with us since and never left us along the way. So this is one of our great partners, and we are so proud of them, and I think they deserve a round of applause. So Haiti, as you probably remember, in 2010, January 2010, was completely destroyed by a devastating earthquake that killed over 300,000 and displaced over 2 million people. So that was one of the hardest, environmental catastrophe that we as a nation had faced. And right after the earthquake, the Obama administration decided to grant the temporary protective status for those who have been in the U.S. Before the earthquake, and also to welcome those who are coming right from Haiti. So that's the first time that we, as Haitian, we were granted the temporary protective status. And as soon as we finished with the earthquake, we also faced a huge cholera outbreak that was the result of the UN intervention in Haiti. And this cholera outbreak killed also a large number of people and created a lot of issues for the economy in Haiti, for people to, for us to be able to care for those people. And as you can imagine, with the earthquake, it took a long time for us to even start, looking at the light, because we were so deep down into the earthquake with everything that happened. It was very hard for us to get back. So as we've been fighting to get out of this, earthquake mode, and a few years later, we had the Hurricane Matthew. Hurricane Matthew came, hit again Haiti. The southern part of Haiti was completely destroyed. So which again placed Haiti on a very thin line in terms of survival. So since 2010, basically Haiti has been on a survival mode. And with those people here on TPS, we have over 58,000 people on TPS in the US. Their job has been doubled, because not only that they have to take care of their families here, they also have to take care of their families in Haiti. And with everything that is going on in Haiti, no one who is Haitian, who is living here, can afford to live by themselves or on their own. They have to send something on a monthly basis to a family in Haiti. So that's how the situation is here with TPS holders. And TPS holders are found everywhere, especially in the healthcare industry. We find them as nurses, we find them as CNAs, home health aid, you find them as teachers, you find them as drivers. So basically they integrated every single aspect of the US economy. So anything that impact those people, not only Haitian, but also you'll hear from the other group, will have a huge impact on the economy, because those are people who are actively involved in terms not only working hard, taking care of themselves, but also taking care of people in Haiti. So last year, 2017, the Trump administration decided that they have to end TPS for Haitian among other countries. And according to the report, the idea is that Haiti is doing so well. Okay? Everything is back to normal, that Haiti can welcome back those 58,000 people. And this goes, despite the report, numerous reports that they shared with the administration, telling them that if you send those people back to Haiti, not only that you are creating like a huge chaos for Haiti, but also it's going to destabilize, the work that has already been started in terms of, getting the country back to its feet. And despite all the report, the administration find that, Haiti is doing well, and then we should send those people back. So now we are facing a huge crisis in our society, where you have TPS holders who came here. Just imagine, I'm just giving you a picture. They came with one child. And, after 10, 15 years, now they have another child who is a US citizen. So this family has two children. One who was born in Haiti, one who is a US citizen. So now, think about this mother, okay, who is now debating, should I take one and go back to Haiti and leave the other one here? And you might think, oh, this is hypothetical, it's not that real. We work with children in the community. And it's almost on a daily basis that parents come to us to ask us, should we sign a paper so that if we have to go, that our child can remain with you? So you can imagine the social, the emotional impact on families, not knowing exactly what they're going to do. And there is this fear now in the community where people are even afraid to take their children to the doctor, afraid to send them to school, because they said, you never know. Because as I'm walking my child to the doctor or to the school, you never know, ICE might be around and might, separated. So we have a huge crisis at the economic level. We also have a crisis at the family separation, fear, where people are afraid what's going to happen to their children, what's going to happen to their families. So when you're thinking about all of those people who have been in the community, who have been integrated into the community, for them to be completely removed, the question is what's going to happen to those empty spots? It's like all of a sudden, you have empty spots everywhere. What's going to happen? How are we going to fulfill them? And the fear associated with that is also the most devastating thing that could happen to a family. So we have a lot to do, and I know that we're going to have a lot of questions around what we can do. So we will be discussing in terms of, what can or we cannot do, so that we can really push for those people to remain in the country. All right, I think I have saved my time, right? We good? Thank you so much, and we will be talking back again.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
First, let me start by saying that I love that protect our neighbors. I just love it. I don't know how you guys came up with that, but I just want to say that's beautiful. It's beautiful because it made me feel like part of a community, It's not like the feeling that we usually get that we don't belong here, but instead saying protecting our neighbors. That made me feel great in this difficult moment. So my name is Jose Palma. I am the co-founder of the Massachusetts TPS committee. And as Marcela said, I do work for Justice at Work. I do work as a paralegal, as legal program coordinator. And today I'm here as a representative of the Massachusetts TPS committee, and I will talk about TPS. So, but first let me start by who am I? And I am originally from El Salvador. I born in El Salvador, and I was born and raised in El Salvador. I came in 1998, so I have been around for the last 20 years. I have been doing a little bit of everything, coming undocumented, working in a factory, working as milk delivery, working and volunteering as soccer coach, doing everything what the U.S. society asks you to do and usually motivate you to do. Work, participate in your community, be part of your community. But, and also I have been doing a very important job, raising a family. I have 4 kids, enjoyable and beautiful conversations from starting with my son, who's 17 years old, applying to college at this specific moment, and my daughter, who's 13 years old, and then going down to a 3-year-old boy, and going down to a 3-month-old baby girl. Yeah. So I have different conversations from beginning about college and going to the first one that we don't understand each other, but we see our eyes. So that's kind of like, how I keep busy. But also, starting last year, we went into what we like to say in the committee is a nightmare that we hope is just that, and it's not going to become a reality. So we were told last year, as you already know, that we have about a year to live in the United States with a immigration status, and that eventually we will, if nothing happens, we will become undocumented and eventually probably and put in deportation procedure. So after 20 years, doing what you're supposed to do, waiting for that opportunity, this is the reality. So that's why last year we decided, I just also want to back up a little bit. Many of you know me because I have been organizing with many of you in different fronts, starting with the DREAM Act, with Cairo, with the student immigrant movement, moving to Centro Presente for 3 years and working with the Trust Act and doing everything we could, and then moving to Neighbor as a political director for 3 years. But this is one of the hardest campaigns I have been working on, because I always said in all of those campaigns, I was trying to help my sister, my siblings, my family, but this one is direct to me. So it's a different feeling. Let me tell you that. It's a different feeling. It's the one that you go like, I only have 11 months, so what am I gonna do? But also, because of many of us work that we have done, we usually don't think about ourselves. We also think about the community that we belong to. And that's why last year, after understanding what's going on with the organizing world and with so much work that organizations have to do, I said to some of my friends, we know what happened with Haiti. We have to step up. People with TPS have to step up. I'm gonna call for a meeting, and if you wanna join me, let's organize a group that will be specifically focused on TPS, but also I want us to step up and take the lead on that. Because organizations are doing a great job and are so busy with so many things that sometimes it is hard for the organization to keep focused on one specific thing, which is the reality that we are facing. That's why we created the Massachusetts TPS Committee, which is led by people with TPS. We have been organizing and trying to focus on TPS, and we have been very lucky enough to have partners who have been joining and in some cases following our lead, which is exactly what we need at this moment of chaos. We need somebody to focus, and then we join effort. So we started last year with this committee, and we were very clear that there were two things that we have to achieve. One, it was to achieve and secure to renew TPS, because last year Haiti was told you have 6 months to go back home. That's right. That was the news. Mm-hmm. And then we said, if that's the news from Haiti, that's probably the same news that's coming up for the rest of the countries, including El Salvador, which is the country I am from. So we said, let's get together and let's work hard to make sure TPS is renewed. It is great to say that because of so many organizing efforts, we got 1.5 year extension. But also we said we have to set the stage for a longer conversation, which is to achieve a permanent residency for people with TPS. And we know that it's Congress who have to act, but we also know that if we are organized, we can achieve that. It may sound like a dream, but when you have 11 months, you have to dream and you have to work hard.
You don't have any choice.
There is no choice. We have to confront this with the reality. So that's what we did. We started organizing at the federal level. We also said, from Massachusetts, we can organize, but we also need to build something that is countrywide in order to pass something that it will be at the federal level. So that's why we have been also very instrumental and we have been taking leadership role in building what is called the National TPS Alliance. So some of us, in my case, I'm part of the executive committee of the National TPS Alliance, and I have been spending a lot of time and thinking, how can we build this national network that is led by people with TPS that will continue doing the work that we are doing in Massachusetts, that our friends are doing in Dallas, Texas, that our friends are doing in Nebraska, and how can we all be connected? So that's what we have been building, the National TPS Alliance. And you can check the website. There is a lot of information about TPS. So with that idea, we start organizing. We have been focusing, organizing within the TPS community. One more thing, and this is very important. The majority of people in the Massachusetts TPS committee are people from El Salvador. But we are very clear that this is not to achieve permanent residency for people from El Salvador. This is not to achieve permanent residency for people from Honduras. This is a campaign to achieve permanent residency for people that are protected by TPS, no matter what country they come from, because this is a community, and we have to make sure we are protecting the community as a whole and not one country or the other. So that's why we have been focusing and trying to work with every community, including Nepal, Sudan, and other countries. In Massachusetts, we have been very well connected with Centro Presente. We have had conversations on how to move this campaign. We have been working very closely with Haitian United. And also, we have been in communication with Matahari, who's doing some organizing within the Nepali community. And actually, in the lawsuit that you was hearing at the beginning, there is a plaintiff from Massachusetts. She lives in, I always confuse Brookline is here in Massachusetts. I always call Brooklyn and Brooklyn. Okay. So she lives here. She's from Sudan. She just came to our meeting last Sunday, and she's joining our effort too. So we are moving. We are doing everything, everything we can. But I think maybe a little bit about, you said, okay, the TPS committee, the National TPS Alliance, working in campaign, but really what's going on in the community? I haven't heard anything. So there are a few things I want to highlight. One, since last year, we had 4 big assemblies. We have bring people with TPS between 250 all the way up to 600 people in a community forum. Then we came up with, this is a campaign that's gonna be won by doing something that is probably unusual. That's why we came the idea, why if we look to have a meeting with Pope Francis? He's the Catholic leader. He should come up forward and talking in favor of TPS. So just 2 weeks ago, some of our kids, including my son, went to Rome and met with Pope Francis and asking for the support of TPS. It's some of those things that sometimes you have to do it even if you don't have the resources, but you have to find a way to do it. And we're still working on it. The other thing that also probably you have heard is the TPS Journey for Justice. That is a national effort through the National TPS Alliance. It's a bus with TPS holders that is traveling the United States. It has been on the road, I believe, close to 2 months now. It's going to end with, at the end, it's going to be 3 months on the road, which is going to be by November 9. There are actually, at this specific moment in Florida, talking with people. There were 3 specific goals. 1, raise awareness about TPS. Raise the profile about TPS. Many people don't know who TPS are. Who are these people? And the other one is to look for support in places where probably legislators are not talking about TPS. So from that end, we have achieved all those different goals. And also, the most important one is the organizing one. But the bus has been going to places where we need to build new organizing groups, like the Massachusetts TPS committee. And in that sense, when they came here in Massachusetts, we went to New Hampshire. There is a group in New Hampshire right now getting organized, TPS holders in New Hampshire. There is another group now also coming up in Rhode Island. Actually, that stop motivated the senators and Congress people from Rhode Island to get more engaged in a conversation. Actually, we're having a call later today to explain what they can do from Rhode Island. So there is a lot of work going on. But because of the time, I want to get where are we going? 1, Massachusetts needs to step up a little bit more. And that is something that you can do. In Massachusetts, we need to move our our federal delegation from supporter to leaders. From supporter to leaders. And there are 3 from Massachusetts that I can share with you after, if you want, who haven't been willing to meet with the TPS committee at this point to talk about TPS. That's one thing we can do locally. One more thing, TPS holders are losing the driver's license at this specific moment. In my case, I'm set to lose my driver's license after 20 years by October 3rd, if nothing happens at the federal level, and that is going on with the rest of the community with TPS. Massachusetts need to step up. There are 11 other states who have provided driver license to undocumented immigrants. Why not Massachusetts? And then another thing that we can do, and this is part of the campaign of where are we going, is we are asking organizations, foundations, religious groups to write a letter of support for permanent residency campaign and send it a copy to everyone in Massachusetts from the federal delegation, and then send us a copy, and I'll tell you why. We want to do the biggest mobilization to advocate for TPS in Washington, D.C. on February 12th, and we want to bring all the copies of your letter of support to legislators to say, look, we are here, but in Massachusetts, we also have support from all these different groups. That is something you can do. And then this campaign is going forward. The Massachusetts TPS committee will continue organizing and taking the lead and working with our partners. We would like to see in the future a group of TPS holders from El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, Sudan in the same room. We have had some language issues, as you can imagine, and that is very expensive, and you can be part of that, supporting that. Also, we want to continue organizing in Massachusetts at the federal level, trying to pass a legislation, but also at the local level, supporting these families who are losing their driver license, and therefore some of them are losing their jobs too. There is a lot of things coming up in Massachusetts, and you can be part of it, and we hope you're gonna be part of it. You know, protecting our neighbors means stepping up sometimes and pushing our friends to do more of what they are doing. Thank you. Yeah. So,
okay.
Okay.
No, you do it. You do it.
So, I share a little bit about me, but I think that we all TPS holders have also different stories and different experience. In my case, I have been focusing on building my family and doing some community work with you all. In Jose's case, Jose is also from El Salvador, and he will share more about who he is and what he has done, but he has been focusing more in the economic part and also building his own business, which is something that sometimes when the conversation comes about immigration, we always think, you know, what do they do? Oh, they just go work cleaning and doing this and that. But also there are some other people who have been very successful in moving and contributing way more than what we think about it. And for that, I would like for you guys to welcome Jose Urias, who's gonna share his story with you.
Hi everyone. In advance, I just want to say thank you for you guys' support, and thank you for letting me speak to you guys. And also, I just want to say I'm sorry if I'm not a great speaker, because this is not what I do for a living. So, but yeah, again, my name is Jose Urias. I'm from El Salvador. I came to the United States in 1994. So since then, I just came with a whole bunch of dreams, like everybody else who came from other countries to the United States. Well, since 94, my focus was just to try and find out a way to achieve my dreams. How? And what do I need to do to be successful? And like everybody else, I start to do a different type of jobs. I work in the restaurant industry, and after the restaurant industry, so I went to a commercial driver, truck driver. Then as a truck driver, I wasn't satisfied because I wasn't doing well. So I went to construction, to start construction. I learned construction. Then I was unhappy with the company. I was doing well, but it was not enough. So I want something better. So I decided to start my own business. So started my construction company 14 years ago. And since 14 years ago, I started to work really hard to achieve all my dreams. And I did achieve my dreams and my goals. Because everything I want in life, I have it. But I just forgot about one very important problem that we have. It wasn't a problem, it wasn't an issue to me. Because after I spent more than half of my life in this country, I was thinking I was a United States citizen too. But the only issue is I don't have the passport from United States. So I was focused to build my business. So I was very successful in business. And I hired a whole bunch of people who work for us. And I have about 30 people. And I have another person who is a TPS holder too. And most of the rest of the people, they are residents and citizens. So, and I was great. I was doing fine until this administration decided to cancel the TPS. So when that news came, so I just sit down and start to think about it. What should I do? What's gonna happen with my business? Actually, I'm married too. I'm sorry, I didn't tell you that part since the beginning. And I have two kids. One is 12 years old and one is 6 years old. And one night, we was sitting in a living room and we was having the conversation with my wife and my kids. And my kid, he was asking questions like everybody, other kids, a little curious about how you gonna resolve this problem. And he started to cry. And he's like, Dad, I don't want to go back to I don't want to go to El Salvador. I don't want you to go back to El Salvador. He's like, I've never been there. And I don't know. No, I don't know anything about El Salvador. He's like, why all my friends, my school, my teacher, my house is here. Like, why I have to go to some other country? I said, well, don't worry. We will work on that, and we'll see what we can do. So, I'm a small business owner. I have 2 companies, actually 3 companies now, because I just bought half of my brother's company. It's a construction company, and we have investments company, and also I bought a half of the electrical companies of my brother. They're all citizens. I'm the only one who had TPS. And I decided to have the conversation with all the folks who work for us. And I said, well, guess what? I guess all your job is going to be temporary too, as my protection too. It's a temporary. So tell your family, you're going to lose your job because I might have to shut down. I don't want to, but they're going to force me to do it. That was at the beginning. Then I said, well, why am I going to let someone to tell me to have to shut down when I'm being very successful in life? Then I have everything someone who wants to have in life. I said, I'm not going to let them do it. I'm not going to let someone tell me I have to shut down because they think I'm not deserved to be in this country. I'd say I'm going to raise my voice. Then I talked to them, well, from now on, they have to take more, I told them they have to take more responsibility in the company and they have to be more independent. And they're like, why? I said, because I'm going to take a lot of time off. Now I'm going to take a lot of time off. And like, you go on vacation? I'm like, no. I'm going to fight for my right and for your right to have a job and your family to have a food on your table. I said, I'm not going for vacation. I'm not going for vacation. I'm going to raise my voice and I'm going to let this administration to tell me I have to shut down because they want to. I said, I'm going to raise my voice and I'm going to tell everyone who the TPS community are. We not are good, bad people like they tell everyone. We are part of the community. We are part of this economic system. We are poor. We pay taxes. I pay a lot of money in taxes. And they telling me I depend on the government. I give money to them. That way they can spend my money. So I'd say we have to fight, and we have to tell them who we are, and we have to tell them how we contribute to this economy. That way they understand that we deserve to be part to this country, and we not just deserve, we earned that. We earned that. Because I never asked for a penny for no one. I never did. I never will do it. So as I told all my guys who work with us, so since then they start to support me, and I've been going around and meet all our delegation from Massachusetts. We already talked to them, except 3. And also we've been in Washington. We've been telling our story to different congressmen and representatives for all around to the country. You know, I have no choice. I have to step up. I have to step up and tell everyone who we are or what we do. It's not what they say. That's the reason I'm here today. And I'm going to say thank you, you guys, to give this chance to talk to you guys and know a little bit about us. I think we all you guys and all you guys support. I'm not just think, we will win. We will win and we will achieve our dreams. And look, and they're not going to tell me I have to go back to the country where I was born. I consider myself U.S. citizen. But one day I will. I know I will. Thank you, guys.
So, just a couple of quick things before we continue with the program. That was amazing, Jose, and it's important to know that there's been studies that show the economic impact that each state would suffer if TPS holders are forced to leave. Many are entrepreneurs like Jose, and here in Massachusetts, there's a study that the Center for American Progress did that estimated that our state's economy, our state's GDP would suffer a hit of a little more than $500 million if our TPS holders in Massachusetts were to leave. And we'll talk about numbers in a little while, but I wanted to mention that. So we mentioned the 3 congressmen, and what was the other thing? All right, well, let's move on. Now we're going to hear from Patricia Montes, who's been in this fight for a long time. You have been working in the trenches. She is the executive director of Centro Presente, and she's going to talk to us a little bit more about TPS and its local impact. Oh, I know what I wanted to say, sorry. So one thing that we should clarify, the current expiration date for TPS holders in El Salvador is next September, correct? So what the TPS cancellation means is that people who have TPS from El Salvador have to leave by then, or after that they will become eligible for deportation. For Haiti is next summer, July 2019, and for Honduras, Patricia, it's January 2020, right? January 2020. So that's why it's 11 months, the 11 months that Jose was talking about. And for other countries, it's roughly either next year, sometime next year, or in 2020 for the cancellation, correct?
Yes.
All right, now Patricia, take it away.
I really, oh my gosh. People say that I am strong, but I have been crying this year with our members, with our lives. I know Jose's kids. Oh my gosh, I don't want to say it because I will start crying. But so I want to share with you a little bit more about the work that Centro Presente have been doing around TPS. But before, I really want to thank the Lenny Zakim. Not for formality. I believe me that I'm terrible with foundations and politicians, but but because you really, as Marcela was saying, and the Hyans too, that have been supporting Centro Presente for a very long time, and I see Cairo here. I hope the Boston Foundation can do more. I'm telling you, I'm terrible. So, but I think that you are supporting the grassroots, as Marcela was saying, and usually foundations, usually in general, I don't want to generalize, but usually have been supporting organizations that are part of the establishment and that are not necessarily supporting or that are not necessarily working directly with people that are being affected. And I think that it's not just because we are here, but Cairo used to work as an organizer with him, and you know what I'm talking about. So I think it's really important because sometimes people think that we're not professional enough, that we don't have the capacity, right, to do this kind of work. And I think that we are part of the community. We know how to resolve our problems because they are affecting our life and the life of our families. And I really want to thank you for trusting us and for funding us and for supporting our organizations and groups like the one that Jose is leading right now, because we're working directly with the people that are being affected. So, and I also want to thank, I said that I'm terrible with politicians, but sometimes when they do good work, I really appreciate it and I really recognize that. And I remember in 2015, and when we were trying to pass TROSAC at the local level, I remember when we had the meeting in Boston with a very new young person, Lenny Zakim, and I remember that with no doubt, he said, yes, I will definitely be the leader. And I don't think that he has an idea at that moment about Centro Presente, or right? And he was able to trust our groups. And I remember that Jose was there too, I think. Or maybe no, but Jose have been doing a lot of work around the TROSAC too. Now they call it Safe Communities Act. So Centro Presente have been around for more than 37 years, working directly with Central Americans. And for the past 20 years, our legal department have been renewing TPS. For 20 years, people have been coming to Centro Presente to renew TPS, people from El Salvador and Honduras. At this moment, we represent over 1,000 people from El Salvador and Honduras that have been coming to Centro Presente every single year to renew TPS. So last year when we received this news, we were like gathering with our members and thinking about what are we going to do, because we represent over 1,000, we have been representing over 1,000 people with TPS for the past 20 years. We had to do something. So we launched a campaign at the beginning of last year with 3 components that I'm going to share with you. The first component and the first element is an education and organizing component. The second one is a legal component, and the third one is a legislative component. So we have been doing a lot of organizing and education. And I don't know, but I'm here with our organizer, Daniela Carvajal, who is a DACA holder. And I don't know if you remember, but over a year ago, the conversation about immigration in the U.S. was focused on DACA, right? And at that moment, it was very difficult for us to do work around TPS because people were saying, like, what are you talking about? What TPS, right? And it was a challenge. It's still a challenge, but it was challenging because the news, everything was in the news, everything was about DACA, right? And it's important. That's a fight that we also need to, do. But at the same time, people from Central America have been invisible in this country, right? And so we launched that campaign doing a lot of education, educating our own members, right? Educating the non-immigrant community and policymakers. So we were able to pass a series of municipal resolutions in order to educate our policymakers about what's TPS, what is the impact that Marcela was, the economic impact, negative impact that is going to have if they cancel TPS, as Marcela was giving us some data, right? It's going to have a tremendous negative impact in our local economies. So we were able to pass municipal resolutions in the city of Somerville, the city of Boston, the city of Cambridge, and we were for the first time talking about TPS with local elected officials. So then we were able to go to the State House. We have a big problem at the State House. And we're going to talk about that later. And Jose and Marcelo, I think Jose already mentioned that. But we went to the State House, and I don't want to lie, but some politicians were afraid to pass a statewide resolution on TPS. Afraid. And I was like, listen, this is not, we're not changing public policy. You're just, doing a public statement, right? About something that is very important, that is relevant for the state, because we have a lot of people with TPS in this state, and if they cancel this program, you're going to have a terrible impact in our local economies. It's not just about people with TPS, it's about the entire economy of the state. So they were afraid, but in the end, they did it. So we were able to pass a statewide resolution on TPS in Massachusetts. Then other organizations used that model, and they were able to pass other statewide resolutions in other parts of the country. And we also have been doing, a monthly meeting with our members for the past year and a half. People come to meetings with Centro Presente. What's the name of the town that the family come, Marcela, Daniela? Well, it takes to this family like an hour and a half. Yeah, to come to a meeting every single month. So we had members that have been gathering for a year and a half, coming to this meeting as part of our organizing and education components. And what do we do at those meetings? We plan together actions, community activities, everything, right? They are part of the decision-making of the campaign. And I'm going to the second element, the second component, the legal part. That had 2 elements. Number one, we have been holding legal clinics with the support of the city of Boston and the city of Somerville. Why are we holding these legal clinics? Because, and with the support, we have been holding these legal clinics with the support of Harvard Legal Clinic and private attorneys, because some people with TPS are also eligible for other,
Adjusting status.
They can adjust their status, right? So we're trying to find legal solutions for some people. So at this point, we have been holding these legal clinics, and according to the information that we have, at least 100 people that went to these meetings that are working now with private attorneys that we trust find an opportunity to regularize their status, and we're very happy because we're not talking about thousands, but 100 people that are members of Central Represented that have been coming to these legal clinics are going to be able to regularize their status through other avenues. So that's very important for us. We know that this is a systemic problem, but finding solutions for 100 people, for us, it was something very important. So the other component of the legal part is that we did a lawsuit with Ivan Espinosa and now they have a new name, the Lawyers for Civil Rights. Thank you. We did this lawsuit. We filed the lawsuit with them, I think, at the beginning of this year. February, thank you. Oh my gosh. We did it in February. And I think that component is also very important. As Jose was saying, the goal is that people with TPS should have permanent residency. But these aspects, these strategies are very important too. And I just want to say that the lawsuit that passed in San Francisco, right?
San Francisco.
Is the one who is helping us right now. So that's a really important component too. So, and the last part is the legislative component, and we're going to follow the lead of the TPS Alliance and Jose here in Massachusetts, because that's something that, we're waiting to see what's going on with the elections, what's going to happen, the results. So we're waiting to see, what are we going to do next year. Jose is having, we have been having conversations about the importance of have like a big meeting next year, maybe before the end of this year, to strategize and see how are we going to be able to, hold accountable members of the Democratic Party, right? So and the other things that we have been doing that are actually part of the first component of our campaign, the education and organizing, is that we have been educating people about the situation in Honduras and El Salvador, particularly in Honduras and El Salvador. So why? Because the Honduran government and the Salvadoran government have been saying that they are ready to receive people with TPS that potentially can be deported to these countries. And that's a lie. That's not true. So we have been putting together delegations. This year we were able to put 2 delegations, congressional delegations, and we were able to visit Honduras and El Salvador. And the second delegation, Congressman Jim McGovern, who is a hero, a champion on this issue for a very long time, he was able to join us. So he went with us to El Salvador and Honduras, and we were able to produce our report about that trip. And believe me that what is going on in El Salvador and Honduras is terrible. Obviously, they are not ready to receive and reintegrate people with TPS. They are not ready to receive and reintegrate nobody at this point. As you know, 7,000 people are right now in a caravan. We are here talking, and we have 7,000 people, more than 7,000 people in Mexico right now. Most of them are from Central America. So how can our governments be lying and saying that they are ready to receive and reintegrate people when we have more than 7,000 people coming from El Salvador and Honduras right now, when the UN declared in 2013 that Honduras was the most dangerous place in Earth after Syria, and then in 2015 the UN declared that El Salvador is the most dangerous place right now after Syria. So our countries are not ready to receive and reintegrate people with TPS. We have a copy of the report that we were able to produce. If you want a copy of the report,
No, they have it in their packet.
Oh,
yes.
Oh my goodness! Thank you, Beth. Thank you. So that's the report that we were able to produce after this trip. And early next year, we are organizing another delegation, and we're inviting our new Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley to join us, and she hopefully is going to join us in a delegation to come to Honduras and El Salvador, and maybe you can come. I'm thinking about you now too.
Thank you. Oh, is that
Oh, and I think the last thing that I want to say, I'm sorry, Marcela,
No, please.
is that we need to hold accountable the leadership of the Democratic Party in Massachusetts. Jose was talking about the driver license for undocumented people. I think that's going to be a fight next year at the state level. And I think we're not able to pass anything at the state level for 2 reasons. That's our opinion. 2 reasons. Number one, because we have a problem with Robert DeLeo and the leadership of the Democratic Party at the State House. They don't have the political will to move anything. And the other aspect, in our opinion, is that we, civil society organizations, had to change. We had to change our strategies, right? We had to change our strategies and work directly with people that are being affected. And yeah, I don't want to say
how we're doing with time. Well, so I'll ask you guys a couple of questions, and I also want to introduce Pastor, hold on, Dufort Florizant, something. Sorry if I didn't pronounce it right. He is the chair of Haitian Americans United. And so I also want to mention that you have in your packets a story about the Vatican trip that Jose, you have it in there. You have other background information that we have been referencing here. So I also urge you to read the report that Patricia talked about, because it's very thorough, and it really drives home the point that, you know, Honduras and El Salvador are just not ready to absorb people. They have corruption, impunity, violence against women. It is absolutely horrific, and that's the reason why you have 7,000 people practically running away from these countries. These people were not paid by anybody to leave. They simply have no other choice. So imagine if TPS holders were to be sent back, it would be just catastrophic. So that is a very thorough report that I urge you to leave. So I want to focus on one thing first. We've been talking about remedies, what needs to happen. We know that the lawsuit was just a Band-Aid, as we were talking earlier. It does give oxygen to the fight. It does give a reprieve. But what really needs to happen is a policy solution. Can one of you talk about what can Congress do? Is there a bill right now pending in Congress? Who filed it? Who is supporting it? I know we talked about the congressmen here in Massachusetts who have not been wanting to meet with you. But how can they be moved to lead on this issue and not just support? Can any of you talk about this bill, if there is a bill in Congress?
Yeah, at this specific moment, and I think it's based on the work that all of us have been doing, there are 7 legislations introduced in Congress. Wow. At this specific moment. And that is a victory for some of us that when we were lobbying last year for the first time, some Congress people didn't know what TPS was. That's right. So now there are 7 legislations. I think that we have been very, very, very clear, and we are 100% or 1,000% sure that nothing is going to happen in the next 2 weeks. So therefore, we are happy that the legislations have been moving. There is one that was introduced by Congresswoman Nydia Velázquez from New York, which is the one that the National TPS Alliance and many other groups like Centro Presente has been supporting. It has, I think at this point, I lost track during the last few weeks because I thought it's not going anywhere anyway, so let's focus on something else. It has like 120 something Congress
sponsors,
co-sponsors. Including one Republican from New Jersey, which is the one that came after the TPS caravan stopped in New Jersey, which is a victory. And then there are some other legislation. There is also one in the Senate, introduced by Senator Van Hollen from Maryland, I believe. And then there are 6 other legislations. What happened with these legislations is that some, like the one from Congresswoman Nydia Velázquez, include every country protected by TPS. Then you have some legislations introduced by, for example, Congressman Curbelo from Florida that limit some countries only, including like, mostly people talk about Haiti, El Salvador, and Honduras, but they left behind, for example, Nepal, that there are 10,000 people protected. They left behind Nicaragua, which is only, couple thousand, let's say 2,000, but usually I want to say this, and I think it's probably helpful for you as a talking point. Sometimes we talk about 400,000 people, but let's talk about 400,000 families, because usually we are the head of the family. So there are 7 legislations. People are talking, let's talk about after election with the new Congress. I think no matter what happens after the elections, we need to get organized and hopefully pushing for the legislation. There are some basic conversation going on at this specific moment to include TPS and DACA in one legislation moving forward. It's a conversation that probably will continue in the next few weeks, and we need to be ready for that. That's kind of like, and there are some Republicans coming forward. For example, I don't remember his name, but he's from Colorado, who also met with the caravan and say, you know what, after hearing your story, I'm committing myself to work with you all, and also I'm willing to work with Democrats to work in a partnership to promote a legislation that will protect people with TPS. So there is a hopeful conversation going on at this point. For sure, we need to be strong.
It shows the importance of meeting with people and holding this type of events, because I cannot tell you how many times I've met with, you know, people who come to our board and to meet, you know, candidates running for office, for example, who have no idea what TPS is and how many people are impacted and what this looks like locally. And so I think it's important to show that these actions, even, you know, meeting with the Pope, just help elevate and raise awareness about this plight. And like you say, we're talking about TPS holders, but we really are talking about also U.S. citizens, kids, a new generation that is part of that is affected by this too. So we know that there's more than 300,000 people just in general that will be affected by TPS nationally. How about here in Massachusetts? I know that 6,000 TPS holders from El Salvador. How about from Haiti?
About 5,500.
Yeah.
5,500. So we're talking about basically 11,000, 12,000 people from that whole TPS from these affected countries here in Massachusetts, correct?
Definitely.
Pastor, is there anything that you want to add that you know, has struck you about this conversation that we haven't touched on? That, you know, whether it relates to Haiti or these other countries? I want to give you a chance to weigh in.
Well, thank you. I'm not going just to be talking. There's so much. I was waiting for the questions because I've been involved in all these aspects of TPS movement during the campaign, presentation, educating the Haitian community, and also collaborating with all this group together for the past 2 years, organizing vigils and rallies, assemblies. I'm always among them. I went to Washington with them, also talking to Congress, and I said there was this lack of understanding about TPS families. They want to push ahead the DACA bill, and I feel that's I spoke to one of the senator who said, well, we have to fix DACA first, and there will be another bill coming up for TPS. And then that's the conversation we had. We said, we need to bring them together because they're interconnected, because the families are being separated. So I understand definitely the family impact. As a pastor, I know it's a spiritual impact. People are losing faith and say, my God, why God put us through in that situation? So we've been just having so much problems in Haiti after the earthquake. We survived the earthquake, so we came here. We thought we were going to have a much better life. So then we were involved, our organization, Haitian American United, as well as all Haitian partners, coming to educate the Haitian communities. Because some of them, what they did last time, when you hear we only received 6 months extension, left to go to Canada. I even traveled to Canada to meet with some of them and said this is not the right thing to do. And then preliminary, Canada only approved about 25% for asylum. And some of them have been already deported back to Haiti. So in the interim, now we only have about 9 months left for Haitians. We continuously going in through the radio and also through TV and just tell them to stay put. Let's come in together, let's organize, let's stay together and be faithful and know that God will intervene, number one, but also with all the allies that we have, so things will get better. And I think just coming up together with you, the organizations, different people, to share the news around TPS families. We talk about the directly TPS recipients, but we're talking about the kids. It's about 275,000 kids.
Right, U.S. citizens.
U.S. citizens. So those are the issues, the humanitarian crisis we're trying to avoid going on. And I think by combining our efforts, going out there, organizing legal clinics, and let the people what their options are, because some of them have parents that have applications that have been filed by their parents, petitioners, that are becoming eligible right now for adjustment of status. And I think we did that in our community. So bring in lawyers, pro bono lawyers, and organizations to talk to the people about what their options are. We did that last December. That's summer, right?
Summer and September.
Summer, September. So we have a lot of people that's coming together and know what their options are. And there's another thing also, we're trying to educate people about the scams that are out there. People telling them, okay, because you are a TPS recipient, you are eligible for permanent residency. And that's not the case.
Right.
So there is a process to do that, and we continue to do all this.
So is there anything that we want to say about, I want to get your thoughts about TPS itself, even the word temporary, right? We know that this program is nothing but temporary. And so I think that's also, you know, it sort of has pushed this narrative for people who first hear about this is like, well, it's temporary, they're never supposed to be staying, you know, why should we keep, you know, why should we give them, and I'm just playing devil's advocate here. But what do you say to people that come to you and are just learning about TPS and say, well, you know, TPS is it's only supposed to be temporary. You know, people should go back to their countries to contribute to, you know, their own countries, you know, rebuilding efforts, whatever. How do you deal with that reaction that I've seen? It's very pervasive when we talk about TPS, especially to audiences that don't really know a lot about the program.
Yeah, I mean, first we talk to people about you know, the reason why TPS exists.
Yeah.
And if you look at the language that was used for the U.S. to grant temporary protectivity, as long as the situation persists in the country, those people should be able to stay. And also, and that's the reason that there is a lot of education that needs to happen. If we look at all of those countries, you know, involved here, and you look at the role of the U.S. in those countries, and like for example, there is a nice article from the Globe about, you know, the debt that the U.S. owes to Haiti, and why Haiti is in the situation that is now, and why people have to go to more. So the U.S. has been playing a real catastrophic role in terms of, you know, maintaining the situation the way that it is now in Haiti, so that people, the economy cannot boom the way that it should be, and that people cannot do what they are supposed to do, so that, because, I mean, if you were to talk to people in Haiti, I mean, all of them would love to stay in Haiti. They love their country because it's their own country. You can imagine that, you know, you have, you know, 80 degrees, 90 degrees all the time.
No one comes to Boston for, like, you know, for pleasure.
Exactly. And also,
yes.
And also when it comes to thinking about, you know, immigration reform, when you grant something on a temporary basis, okay, and then the situation persists over a long period of time, so there should be some provisions for you know, the legislator to say, okay, you know what, you are granted a temporary protective status for probably a year or two. But if you do what you are supposed to do, you obey the law, you work hard, you contribute after a certain time, you should be able to have at least an option from the temporary to permanent. So there should be something, because why? I mean, what can you say to someone who has been here for 20 years? Okay, after 20 years, that's your country, that's your community. Right. So how would you say that you've been here temporarily for 20 years? What type of temporary that will, you know, stay for 20, last for 20 years? So I think that's where we need to kind of, you know, bring the dialogue in terms of, you know, why do we stay for so long? It's not because we choose to stay for so long. It's because the situation persists, and also the U.S. has not been helping the way that it should, so that at least we can go back to those countries. Right. So I think that's where that's the
perfectly put. And Patricia, I mean, I saw you nodding when Gerald was talking about the role that the U.S. has had, you know, in foreign policy in Central America too, correct?
That's a 100% one of our priorities. Is in my favorite issue, because that element of the conversation is always invisible, right? People think about our countries like, oh,
they just magically turn violent.
Our countries, you remember what the president said about our countries, right? Mm-hmm. And maybe he's right, but he forgot why, right? And the role that historically the U.S. have been playing. And this is not ideology. Let's talk about facts, right? Haiti, according to the UN, have been the poorest country for I don't know how many decades. Yep. And early this year, Honduras was declared by the Latin American and Caribbean Economic Office of the UN as the poorest country in Latin America, a place that Haiti has it for a very long time. Mm-hmm. But nobody talk about why do we have this alarming and endemic level of violence in El Salvador and Honduras since the 80s, right? The U.S. have been funding civil conflicts, right? The U.S. have been supporting coup d'etats, Haiti and Honduras in 2009. The U.S. supported an constitutional re-election in my country last year. It's not in the news, right? It's not in the news about that support. And that aid that the president is saying that is going to cut right now, excuse me, but that aid is not going to support poor people in our countries. That aid is military aid that is going to support military police that is repressing people that are fighting against U.S. companies that are there exploiting people and displacing people, right? Displacing peasants, displacing Afro-descendant people. You can read the report, displacing indigenous people. That's why people are coming, right? And the U.S. is playing a very gigantic role, especially U.S. corporations that are going there because they want natural resources from our countries. And I think that we have to do a lot of education. And TPS, the key word about TPS is not temporary, it's protected. Exactly. It's protected. Because, you know, the countries, our countries right now, the situation is worse than when TPS was granted for the first time. And let's talk about the role of the U.S. in this crisis that we're facing.
Great. All right, so questions from the audience. Yes, please.
I'd like to know a little bit more about the license issue.
Yes, that's a good point. Jose, you were saying earlier that you're about to lose your driver's license. Yeah. And so why is that? Why is why are you going to lose it? Why can't you renew it? Is that because you are going to lose your status next year, or how does that work?
So it is a combination of the famous Real ID law.
The Real ID, okay.
The federal law.
Are you people familiar with Real ID is? So Real ID is this federal requirement that all driver's licenses are supposed to be granted with very, very restrictions, like very limited requirements, I guess. You have to show all these papers, and it comes from, does it come from the Patriot Act or something like that? Anyway, Massachusetts was granted an extension and was one of a few states that was not Real ID compliant in its driver's licenses. And I think next year or in the next couple of years, in 2020, we're supposed to, all the driver's licenses here in Massachusetts issued here have to be Real ID compliant. And again, that means that people have to show even like birth certificates, you know, they have to submit, you have to submit yourself to a lot more background checks to show that, you know, you're worthy of this Real ID compliant driver's license. Because then that's going to be used for travel. And so it has to meet these federal requirements.
So in Massachusetts, it started this year in March to implement
the Real ID.
Known as the Real ID law. What is happening is that therefore they are requiring for a person to have a work authorization for more than a year.
Okay, so that's what it is.
To be working.
A work authorization for at least a year.
Work authorization. So what Registered Motor Vehicle is doing right now is telling, for example, people who have commercial driver license, well known as CDL, we're not going to be able to renew your driver license because of one, the Real ID, and your work authorization is not for more than a year. So many truck drivers at this specific moment are facing the reality that everyone whose driver license is expiring, they are not able to renew it and therefore losing their job. Just in our last public meeting, there were like 40 truck drivers, and probably, you know, and they are just the ones that are getting organized, but many people across the board are losing the driver license. Then when it comes to Massachusetts driver license, because of the same requirement of you have to have a work authorization. So if like everyone who's getting close to the expiration date the work authorization expiration date and is going to the registered motor vehicle at this moment, what they are asking is to fill it up in a specific form, and then the registered motor vehicle is sending it to immigration before providing the driver license. And for many people has been denied. We have some people who have been getting that letter to say you don't qualify to get a driver license. So that's what
because you're going to
about.
lose your status. Yeah.
So many people will say, well, it's the Real ID law. Well, also Massachusetts can provide a driver license for people to drive in Massachusetts if Massachusetts really want to do something, which has been failing during many, many years. There are some other states who provide driver license for people who are actually undocumented, like Maryland, for example. They
Vermont, too.
Vermont, Connecticut, and so Massachusetts cannot fall behind and say, oh, because it's the federal law. Massachusetts can move forward, and this is the other thing also, and I think it's also a conversation going on within the legal community is people with TPS are not set at this moment. We're still fighting for it. So why to start punishing us before even
you're still legal.
Right. We still have documentation, and we will continue fighting, and we feel comfortable that we can win. So why Massachusetts start punishing people even beforehand? And the Real ID law, Massachusetts is set to start fulfilling the requirement by 2020. So why to start right now punishing people who are with TPS? So that's a conversation that we need to have with our local legislators.
That's a great point in terms of what can people do here and what can Massachusetts do to keep protecting TPS holders. The driver's license issue for undocumented immigrants has been around for a long time, and it always there's a debate at the State House. It never goes anywhere. Never mind that there are states who have been doing this safely with real, Vermont, I think, has different types of driver's licenses. And what it is, you have your Real ID compliant driver's license, and then you have all these other types of driver's licenses that, undocumented immigrants can get. And this issue has not moved in Massachusetts. And for the life of me, I can't not understand it. And again, it's been, like Patricia says, at least 10 years in this fight. And so I think that's a great point that now after the midterms, perhaps, there can be a new push for this to move in the State House. Any more questions? Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, I saw you. Please.
The driver's license. So we have families that have been working for either for MBTA, school bus drivers.
That's true.
Many calls of people who get their licenses expired, just want to renew them. They will not renew at all, as long as you only have a temporary. Temporary. As long as you are a TPS recipient, you are not eligible at all to renew your commercial driver's license. And I have the family exactly. You are not eligible.
And your point is very, because Haitians work a lot as school bus drivers, taxi drivers, and so they need a commercial driver's license to work.
Exactly. So how are they going to support their families?
Right.
So legally they are here all the way to July, but now you're stopping them from working. So if they cannot work, how are they going to support their families?
And not only that, if they are caught driving without a driver's license, they can get deported right away. So that's another risk that some families cannot take.
This is really true. Last month, I have a lady who works for the airport. So she has her license expires. So she went to renew it with a regular license. And they told her that we can't renew it for you. I have to call Mass Law Reform Institute for Iris Gomez to send a letter to DOT, send a letter to the Office of the Governor, just to work with DOT. 3 months. Before 3 months, they call her again. She has to go to renew the license after 3 months. And some people are still waiting right now to get their regular license. She already lost the job. She has to go find another job.
Well, this is a real issue. Okay, well, thank you so much. I really want to thank our panelists. Please join me in thanking them.